Hello, welcome back to Odds Now. It's me, Matt Hill. I'm joined by Brad Walker for some more Euro 2024 preview content here on the Odds Now YouTube channel. If you haven't already checked out our group stage previews, well, what are you waiting for? There's 6 of them up there now on the channel. All groups covered, all teams covered in depth with best bets and key information so you can get all clued up ahead of the tournament. If you're more of a reader, you can head over to oddsnow.com, click the tips and insights section, and you'll find comprehensive team guides for every single nation competing this summer in Germany. Now, as you can probably tell by the title of this video today, we're going to be having a quick look at the Euro 2024 top goal scorer market. Always a fun market, popular market to bet on. Just a quick overview of how this market works. It's pretty self-explanatory. Whoever scores the most goals will be paid out as a winner, but there are some key things to note. If there are a tie at the top of the market, 2 players tied, you will be paid out in dead heat rules. So basically what that means is if 2 people finish level, you'll be paid out as a winner at half the odds you backed your selection at. And equally, they do play each way on this market as well. Generally 4 places, but Betfair are going 5 places on this market, which is commendable. So you can back somebody each way, and if they finish 4th or 5th, then you'll be paid out the each way section of your bet. So that obviously does open it up to a bigger realm of players, because we have some very predictable names at the top end of this market. But, traditionally speaking, we have seen some unlikely players sneak into the places at major tournaments, even in recent years. And just to go back over some recent tournaments, World Cup 2010, Wesley Sneijder, Dutch midfielder, was in the mix and finished joint top scorer. James Rodriguez of Colombia, a massive price. He won it outright at Brazil 2014. And then going back to Euro 2012, Alan Jagoyev of Russia was placed as a joint winner. Not to digress too much, I did back Jagoyev at a huge price, but unfortunately he was tied with 5 other people, so my returns were a lot less than I was hoping for. But, any win better than none. So this is an interesting market. You can approach it a number of different ways, but I think if we start with these market leaders, and I'm looking at it, Brad, and I'm seeing 4 sort of big hitters at the top here. Kylian Mbappe leads the way, followed by Harry Kane, and then at slightly bigger prices you have Cristiano Ronaldo, the formidable Portugal striker, and Romelu Lukaku, who was top scorer in European qualifying. So they're the kind of 4 big hitters. If we start with Mbappe, Brad, obvious claims, and he's been there and done it before, hasn't he, at the World Cup?
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's been in the news as well, of course, in recent days. Finally confirmed that he's joined Real Madrid. He would have been disappointed, before we go back to the World Cup, we'll look at the last Euros. He'd have been disappointed that he failed to find the net for France at Euro 2020, and he, of course, missed the penalty in the shootout, which saw them lose to Switzerland in the knockout stages. But like you said, he rebounded at that 2022 World Cup 18 months ago in Qatar. He scored 8 goals, including the hat-trick in the final. Couldn't really ask much more of him. France coming agonisingly close to back-to-back World Cups there, and he continued his scoring form during qualifying for this tournament. He scored 9 goals. Only a couple of players scored more, the likes of Lukaku and I think Ronaldo, the only 2 players who scored more than him during qualifying. I think Harry Kane also had 9 too, who was level with Mbappe. France, I think they're second favourites to win the whole tournament behind England, so you'd expect them to go deep. And I think that's always an important factor you want to look at when backing your top scorer, of course, because the more games they play, the more likely they are to score more goals and to come out on top. They are in quite a tough group. I say a tough group, a competitive group. I think we both expect them to go through. I tipped them to go to top the group. I think you tipped them to finish in second, Matt, in our prediction video for Group D, the other day. But Austria, in particular, are in great form under Ralf Rangnick, and the Netherlands, of course, are established at major tournaments too. Poland, perhaps on the decline. We will see how that pans out. But you'd still back Mbappe to find the net in those group stage games. I think we're going to talk about how important the group stage can be when it comes to crowning the top scorer. A lot of the work is often done in those games when some of the weaker sides perhaps are floating around. Of course, the longer you go in the tournament, the more competitive the games are. But Mbappe coming in at a best of 5-1, I don't think you can really complain with that at all. I'd say that's very, very fair when you consider his record scoring at major tournaments. He's got 4 goals in World Cup finals. He obviously bagged in the 2018 World Cup final too. He will be, of course, as we touched on, disappointed with his contribution or lack of contribution at Euro 2020. But he's done pretty well since then. I don't know how you're feeling, Matt, but yeah, I'd certainly be backing him to be among the highest scorers in this tournament.
Oh yeah, you'd be amazed with the places you won because like you say, a lot of the work is done in the group stages traditionally with winning the top goal scorer market. But Mbappe has proven that, finals and semi-finals, games that we traditionally consider as being cagey affairs, to him that doesn't matter. He scores whether it's a big occasion or whether it's a group stage game or whatever. And we talk about that Euro performance 4 years ago or 3 years ago as it was, and being disappointed not to score, but he put those demons to bed with that sublime World Cup, and it's just really tough to see him not scoring at least sort of 4 or 5, which always has you in the mix in this market. So he's as rock solid as they come, and you could back him each way and double your money if he places, So yeah, I'm not one to back the favourites in these kind of markets, but in terms of a rock solid favourite, I think I would rather back Mbappe than the man we're going to talk about next, which is Harry Kane. And obviously, very obvious credentials for Kane as England's number 9, the other joint favourite or favourite outright, if you will. So they're expected to go deep. We all know that Kane is arguably the most prolific goal scorer in world football, but I just have my worries slightly about his ability to score in the biggest games in this England side. And he's very keen to play a role in the link-up play under Gareth Southgate. We often see him dropping deep. There can be a frustration that he's not making those same runs that he makes at club level sometimes. So, yeah, I don't know. If it was a straight shootout between Mbappe and Kane and I'm only backing one, it would be Mbappe for me. But I don't know what you think about that, Brad.
Yeah, I agree. I agree too. I think Mbappe's done it in the biggest stages, hasn't he, for his country? And you can maybe make the argument as well at club level. Of course, Kane's only had one season at Bayern Munich, but to be fair to him, you can't really complain about his return. He's got 44 goals in all competitions. 36 of them, came in the Bundesliga, which broke the record of Uli Seeler from 1964. He scored 9 goals during qualifying. He's got a golden boot at the 2018 World Cup. We touched on the importance of the group stage games, and I think he scored a lot during those group stages back in Russia, which contributed towards him claiming that 2018 World Cup. He's got 12 goals at major tournaments as well, and he's in a group with Serbia, Denmark, and Slovenia, which, some tight games in there, but you'd be backing England to win all 3 against those sides. You'd expect Kane to be at the centre of all of that. 6-1, he comes in at the best. I do agree with you, though. If it was a pick between him and Mbappe, I would be backing Mbappe just based on his track record at these major tournaments. He's hardly put a foot wrong other than the Euro 2020 appearance. But yeah, he's coming off the back of a record-breaking season at Bayern Munich. He's torn that league up over there with 44 goals. So, of course, he's going to be among the favourites to be among the top scorers at this tournament.
Obvious credentials, no doubt, and I'm a big Harry Kane fan. Let's hope he does fire for England. But yeah, on a pure value, it would be Mbappe for me out of the 2. And then we go to 2 slightly bigger prices, but I think these 2 would appeal arguably just as much for a lot of people here. Cristiano Ronaldo we'll touch on first, and he needs no introduction, having top scored on more than one occasion at tournaments during his fantastic career. He's, at the twilight of that career now, but still leading the line for a multi-talented Portugal side. You could say that against Georgia, this is the kind of game that you could rack up 2 or 3 and get yourself right in the mix. So there's a lot to like about Ronaldo. I guess the worry would be, is he going to play 90 minutes all the time? Is Martinez going to be tempted to sort of substitute him or rotate him even with Gonçalo Ramos, who we saw come in his place to devastate in effect at the World Cup? So, I guess the game time element is the worry for Ronaldo, is it?
Yeah, exactly that. Like you said, he's getting on now. You mentioned Gonçalo Ramos there. We're going to talk about him later on in the video, but Portugal do have plenty of options in forward areas now. And like you said, Ronaldo, of course, he's got the greatest star power of all of them. He'll still he'll still get his fair share of minutes, but as you say, will he be playing the full 90 across all their games? He did score 10 goals in qualifying, though, and only Romelu Lukaku, who we'll touch on in a minute, scored more. Admittedly, it was a weaker qualifying group for Portugal, but nevertheless, he does have 22 goals at major tournaments so far, so you can never count him out. And they are in Group F, where they are, again, overwhelming favourites. It's similar to England, as we discussed there. This is probably an even weaker group for Portugal, with Turkey, Czech Republic, and Georgia, who are the lowest ranked team in the tournament. Interestingly, I think I'm right in saying that Portugal played Georgia last. I'm not. I think that they do, and like you said, if they do win those first two games, it could be a case that Ronaldo gets rested. So if he is playing against Georgia, you'd back him to find the back of the net. It's just a case of whether he's actually on the pitch. But at 14-1, it's Cristiano Ronaldo. He's made a career out of shining on the biggest stages and on the biggest moments. You can never ever back against him. So it could be well worth a punt at that price.
Yeah, the kind of price that you might feel silly for not backing it in a couple of weeks' time when he's scored 3 in his first 2 games or similar. But, these are the risks you take, I suppose. Romelu Lukaku, the last of what I'm calling the big hitters, the big four, at 18-1 best price. Top scored in Euro qualifying. He's in a group with Belgium where, 2 arguably very, potent games for a centre forward looking to get themselves off the mark, and then another one against a tricky Ukraine side. But Lukaku, he's had a lot of tournament experience now. He knows what it feels like to lead the line for his country. He's had some forgettable moments as well. I seem to remember he had a stinker in the World Cup semi-final against France when they went out of the tournament. That was a golden chance to win a tournament for Belgium. So he's had the highs and the lows of it, but he's experienced, comes in off a decent domestic season, a fantastic international pedigree, makes a lot of appeal, doesn't he, at 18-1?
Yeah, absolutely does. Yeah, like you said, 14 goals in qualifying, more than any other player. 21 goals for Roma this season in Serie A. We touched on Belgium the other day when we previewed Group E. Very, very soft at the back, I think it's fair to say, but devastating going forward, and that could play into how they approach their games in Germany. Full throttle, I think, was a phrase that you used, Matt. And if that is the case, you'd certainly back Lukaku to find the back of the net on plenty of occasions. During qualifying, I know some people aren't a fan of the expected goals metric, if you like, but Belgium did average 1.73 expected goals in qualifying, plenty of chances, and Lukaku, he struggled to settle at a lot of the clubs that he's been at, but he's never had trouble finding the back of the net. Anyway, his goal scoring record is very, very impressive. He also has 11 goals already at major tournaments for Belgium. The only thing is, I touched on it there, their softness at the back, the potential vulnerability in defence, Belgium, it could threaten them when it comes to the latter stages, which again would narrow the scoring window available for Lukaku. But you look who they're in the group with: Slovakia, Romania, and Ukraine. Clear favourites again, as was the case with the players we just discussed before. You'd certainly back him to bag a few goals in that group stage and leave himself in a strong position in the knockout stages. Again, it's just a case of how far Belgium can go to really strengthen his shout for the golden boot. But look at his record, and then you look at the price at 18-1. Again, like you said with Ronaldo, you could be left feeling very silly if you don't back that price in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, and I must admit, out of the 4, he will be the one that appeals to me most, because I'm not overly sold on Belgium's prospects of winning this tournament, but I do expect them to be around till at least the sort of quarter-final stage. I think that's 5 games for Lukaku to, potentially get five goals. I really like his fixtures as well. Ukraine are the best side in that group and should go through, but they're not unbreachable. And then, his other games, Slovakia and Romania. For an informed striker, you've got to think he's got a good chance of getting close there, and he just looks much fairer value than the other 3 to me. Okay, so we've covered the 4 sort of market leaders. Let's go into what I'm kind of calling the mid-tier of player here, sort of the 20 to 40-1 mark. And like we touched on earlier, plenty of scope for backing somebody in this range. We've seen it time and again. It does happen. I guess we've got a combination of strikers here that maybe don't play for a top team, or maybe aren't quite at that elite level, or attacking midfielders that have a goal threat as well, set piece specialists. So, let's pick a couple out here. I know that you've got a few names jotted down. Jude Bellingham on that list, if we want to start with Jude.
Yeah, absolutely. You just look at his first season in Madrid, of course, signs for them last summer for a big fee. Most players would be intimidated by that, but not Jude Bellingham. He returns with 23 goals and 13 assists for Madrid, fresh off of winning the Champions League, at the beginning of the month at Wembley Stadium against his former club, Borussia Dortmund. Finishes as the second top scorer in La Liga. He's got 2 goals in his last 4 England appearances. He's already scored at a major tournament with a header against Iran and Qatar 18 months ago. And then again, as touched on with Harry Kane, look at the group stage opponents: Serbia, Denmark, Slovenia. He is certainly back himself, I'm sure, to bag across those matches. And again, England expected to go deep. If they do that, Bellingham, you imagine, will be a main pillar and one of the first names on the team sheet for England, not to sound too cliche. So at 20-1 is what he comes in at. I certainly think that's a reasonable punt, and it's certainly worth having a go on Jude Bellingham. Like, he's had little trouble finding the net for his club. There's no reason why that can't continue for his country.
Yeah, it seems a lot of people agree with you with that as well. A little bit of movement for Bellingham in the last week or so in this market. I guess it just all comes down to whether he's going to play that same sort of attacking role that we see him at Real Madrid for England. Nobody really knows how England are going to line up. We have our ideas, but I suppose if Manu and Rice play the deeper role, then that does free up Bellingham and Foden and the likes. Foden also been nibbled in a little bit in this market as well, so he's another interesting runner. I think you had a couple more noted down from this mid-tier, Brad. Who do you want to touch on next?
Kai Havertz is one which sprung out, and I look at his price. At
another popular one in the market, I noticed.
Yeah, again, he had a difficult start to the season, didn't he, at Arsenal, since moving there to Chelsea. But in the second half, it really looked like he found his feet. He eventually finished the season with 14 goals to his name. And I looked at his conversion rate, and it boasts a 19% conversion rate for Arsenal. I think that's decent. I don't think that's too terrible at all. Germany, again, they're hosting the tournament. Many are tipping them to go deep into the tournament as well. Expect that he'll be leading the line for them in that sort of false nine centre-forward role that he's familiar with. The group, again, Scotland, Hungary and Switzerland, some tough games in there. But again, I think they'll be back to score goals in those matches, Germany. And Kai Havertz, I don't think there's any reason why he can't be at the centre of that. Like I said, coming in at 33-1, I think he's got a real outside chance here at this Golden Boot, a real underdog or dark horse, if you like.
Yeah, and I think the final name you wanted to mention in this section was Gonçalo Ramos, someone we already touched on in the Cristiano Ronaldo section. But if Ronaldo's minutes are to be sort of shared out, it'll be with this man who's shown himself to be arguably just as prolific in his young career so far, hasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah. I think he shone onto the international stage, didn't he? With a hat-trick against Switzerland and Qatar to send Portugal through to the quarterfinals. Okay, they eventually go and lose to Morocco, but he made his mark in that tournament. Moves to PSG. They signed him permanently. He's had a difficult season. I think he had suffered with a virus around Christmas time, which limited his minutes. I think he was actually hospitalised as well, but he ended up with finishing with 14 goals this season. I think he had 8 in his last 14 for PSG too. Again, as with Ronaldo, you look at Portugal's opponents in the group, you'd be expecting him to have plenty of chances to score goals. Mbappe leaving PSG as well, of course, this week. I was finally confirmed he'd be going to Real Madrid. He'll be eager to put on a show, I'm sure, to cement his place as the number one man in Paris. He also had 3 goals in qualifying at 45-1. I think, again, he could be a real outside shout at this Golden Boot in Germany.
Yeah, some interesting names you flag up there. Just before we move on to sort of the even bigger prices there, some other names just for those interested as we speak today on the 6th of June. Giroud, 28-1, will be fighting for minutes with France, but has proven himself on the highest stage. Phil Foden, I mentioned, 28-1. Could he have a big summer ahead for England? And Spain's striker Alvaro Morata, 33-1. Well, you certainly would fancy Spain to potentially go deep and score some goals, but is Morata the man to do it? Time will tell, I guess. We move on then. We're moving into that sort of 50-1 and bigger range now, and I'm going to open the floor here to any names you like. I do have a couple of really sort of fanciful shouts that I will chuck in. I think people do kind of hope that I'm going to kind of pull a long shot out the fire. It doesn't have to, doesn't always go well, but I like to try my best to dig something out. Brad, any from the big range of sort of 50-1 plus that you want to flag up first?
Yeah, one man who did very well at the last tournament, Euro 2020, was Patrick Schick for Czech Republic. He scores 5 goals, narrowly misses out on the Golden Boot, but he's really struggled with injuries since, hasn't he? I think he's been very up and down for him since then, but he has been fit since January for Bayer Leverkusen, and he finished the season with 13 goals. Czech Republic get off to a difficult start against Portugal in their first game, but Georgia and Turkey, I think, they'll be big favourites against Georgia and Turkey. I'm thinking they can certainly match them at least. He looks like he might be finding his rhythm again for Leverkusen with some big goals in the second half of the season. As I said, he's familiar with the Euros, having done so well 3 years ago at 66-1. I think he's certainly someone that's worth keeping an eye for at that price. I don't know what you think, Matt. I know you were very fond of him when we did the group stage video for Group F.
Yeah, I think he's probably one of the best strikers in world football, but he's just had a horrible time with injury. I'm hoping he's going to have a couple of sort of, seasons without injuries and really show what he's made of. But yeah, 66-1, he's been there and done it, hasn't he? 5 goals in the last Euros, joint top scorer with Ronaldo, but unfortunately lost out via I think it was most assists. Ronaldo had 1 assist to his none. I thought that was a little harsh, actually. I think the way they should settle this market really is non-penalty goals, because 3 of Ronaldo's 5 goals were penalties, whereas Schick's, I think, were all but 1 from open play, and he scored some marvellous goals, a real range of goals, and it remains to be seen the state that Czech Republic are in under a new manager, new regime. But one thing you could set your watch to is if Schick comes out and he's fit, he's going to be a handful for any back line. And yeah, looking forward to watching him again. Couldn't put anyone off the 66-1, providing he is fit. I know you also wanted to flag another man at 66-1, and he definitely deserves a shout here. Alexander Mitrovic, someone who Premier League fans will be all too aware of with his goal record at domestic and club level. He's playing in Saudi Arabia now, but he hasn't lost that scoring touch, has he?
No, and we were quite surprised when we were doing the Serbia video the other day, the Group C video. He scored 57 goals for Serbia. I think that's an incredible record for a nation of that size. 3 goals at a World Cup. Interestingly, he's never played at a European Championship, so this will be his first game in this tournament. But like you said, playing in Saudi Arabia, 39 goals for Al Hilal this season. If he can make a fast start in that group stage, they do get to play England in their first game, to be fair, but then there's a very good chance that he could be high among the scoring charts. Too, and another man coming in at 66-1 is Artem Dovbyk of Ukraine. 25 goals for Girona this season. Featured at Euro 2020. He actually scored a late winner against Sweden in the knockout stages. I think that was his only appearance at the tournament. He played 14 minutes, but he did get a massive, massive goal to send his country through. It's his first tournament really as a key starting player for Ukraine. Scored a late winner versus Bosnia and Herzegovina in the playoff semi-final to secure a place at the tournament for Ukraine. He scored 8 goals for his country already, including that goal against Sweden, 2 in qualifying as well. We mentioned Group E, Belgium and Ukraine probably higher level and quality above Romania and Slovakia. And if he can get a couple of goals in those games, then you'd certainly favour him to be among the highest scorers as well.
Yeah, you would. Dovbyk, a little bit of money has come for him as well. I've seen he's quite a popular selection among other tipsters as well. And it doesn't surprise me just for all the reasons you outlined there. Coming off a great club season, he's in a group where he's got at least 2 games where you would fancy him to get on the score sheet. And he looks like one of these value selections that could quite easily run into a place. Is there any more you want to flag, Brad, before I try and pick some outrageous sort of long shots?
They were the ones that came to mind. I want to give a special mention as well to Rasmus Højlund. He's only 45-1, so maybe should be in that mid-tier section. But I just thought because Denmark perhaps limited progression, don't know how long they'll be in the tournament for, that he would more fit an outsider. He scored 7 goals in qualifying. Only 4 players scored more. Could fancy his chances in those games against Slovenia and Serbia in particular. So I think he's worth giving a shout. But now I'll hand it over to you, Matt. Who have you got written down to spring on us?
Well, I'm going to just throw 3 names at you, and they're all 150-1 or bigger. So, take these with a pinch of salt. But, you do have to get creative in this market sometimes. And 4 goals or 3 goals may be enough to get you a place payout. So 150-1 place would be a 30-1 winner, which, effectively is better than backing a Lukaku, a Kane, Mbappe to win it outright. So that's why I like to look at this part of the market. Mikel Oyarzabal is a player. I'm trying to find an angle in with this Spain team that isn't Alvaro Morata. And Oyarzabal actually played last night for them in a friendly and scored a hat-trick in a 5-0 win. So, if you're looking at the Spain team as a possible danger to win this tournament, then, you have to look outside of Morata for me in that goal scoring market. They're going to be like other teams in this tournament, like Germany. They're going to be reliant on goal scorers from midfield and wide areas. And Oyarzabal is someone who's just continuously improving on the international stage. I thought he was definitely one that caught my eye at a big price. Another man at 150-1, Andrej Kramaric, is likely to be the main source of goals for Croatia. Now, some people would regard Croatia as a dark horse to potentially win the Euros. They are in a tough group, but if you're banking on them going deep in this tournament, it is not beyond the realms for Kramaric to get 4 or 5 goals. He's probably their chief goal threat, despite his advancing years. He's very capable, and I just think the price, it's a price play. I don't particularly fancy him to rip things up, but I think if Croatia are going to go deep, it's worth having on side at 150 to 1. And then another one who is not prolific at club level, but may just find an inspired summer for his country is Dominik Szoboszlai at 200 to 1. He will be taking penalties and free kicks for Hungary. I expect Hungary to get out of their group and possibly get beyond the last 16 as well. So if you're getting 4 or 5 games from a penalty taker and a free kick taker and somebody who takes probably more long distance shots than any other midfielder in the tournament. I don't have the stats to hand to back that up, but I have seen a lot of statistics floating around about Szoboszlai's, tendency to shoot from range. So, when you're trying to think outside the box, he's somebody who could easily end up getting 3 or 4 if Hungary are to go on a deep run. But yeah, look, they're fanciful selections, but sometimes people like one to put a pound each way on just as a little bit of a long shot. So there would be my 3 that I would throw into the ring. I like a lot of the names that we've discussed here. Just to round the video off then, Brad, I guess if you had £10 to stick on someone to win the top goal scorer market, where would you go? And then if you had one long shot you could pick each way, who would it be?
I'd go for Lukaku for the first one for all the reasons which we said. Like Belgium going to go for it. His scoring record's unbelievable. Great record at major tournaments. Great record in qualifying. I think if Belgium do get to that last 16 quarterfinal stages, given their group in particular and the teams they face there, I think he'll be certainly one worth putting money down on. He's a proven goal scorer everywhere he's been. In terms of the long shot, I do really like Patrick Schick. He's not really the long shot, he's in that mid tier, but it's 66 to 1. I think you can certainly make the argument.
I think that counts. I think I'll give you that. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and given his record at the last tournament, 5 goals, he looks like he's just finally getting some momentum under him again at Leverkusen in the second half of this season. Consider the group that he's in as well, with Georgia, the lowest ranked team in the tournament, who are in danger maybe of becoming the whipping boys of that group. If they're not careful, I'd certainly be backing Schick as well. I think at 66 to 1, it's certainly worth a punt.
Yeah, well, you made my life pretty easy then, because I'm going to agree with you on both fronts, and I've already backed both of them for full disclosure. Romelu Lukaku 18 to 1 and Patrick Schick 66 to 1 would be my 2 against the field. But yeah, plenty of names there discussed, plenty covered. Let us know who you fancy in the top scorer market for Euro 2024. What we also have on offer from several bookmakers are these fantastic team top goal scorer markets, and that's something that we're going to try and have a look on in another video over the coming days. But you can bet on players to be their individual team's top goal scorer, and there are some really interesting pricing in those markets which we'll try and drill down on in a future video. But yeah, let us know who you're backing to be Euro 2024's top goal scorer. Make sure you subscribe to Odds Now for all the latest betting preview content from the sporting world. We've got loads more Euro stuff to come between now and kickoff, and we're going to have match previews on a daily basis throughout the tournament, so stick with Odds Now. Thanks for watching. Give us a like if you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you very soon.